Coal mining has been deeply ingrained in the DNA of West Virginians for decades. But as the country pushes for clean, renewable energy, coal production has declined, eliminating tens of thousands of jobs across the state. In the latest CBSN Originals, Adam Yamaguchi travels to West Virginia to investigate how the growing market for green energy has impacted the state's coal miners.
My father, my uncles, my grandfathers, my brother, I was born and raised in a coal family. Coal raised me and raised all three of my kids too, until I made the transition.
Yeah. You know, when you first started looking into switching from coal to wind, did your buddies give you a lot of shit? Like your buddies at the coal mine?
They did.
Yeah, what'd they say?
I just, when are you gonna get your wooden shoes? And, I heard all the tree hugger comments and I heard all that. And of course, just to play along, as soon as I made the transition, I went and bought a Subaru. So,
wow, you went full circle.
But it's funny that now it's those same people that are calling me for a job. I get calls almost on a weekly basis, are you guys going to be hiring soon? And it's guys that I used to work in the mines with. So I think they realize that it's less of a competitive thing now, and it's more of, it's a job, it's a future. Yeah. I've got no interest competing with the coal mine. I've got an opportunity right here that I can earn a living for my family and produce some energy. So that's my main concern.
And Matt Morrison joins us now. He is the supervising producer of the CBSN original documentary, Clinging to Coal, West Virginia's Fight Over Green Jobs. Matt, welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Such a great character we just saw there for your documentary. Here's someone who had 3 generations in the coal industry, as he said, and has moved into a job in the renewable energy industry. What made you focus on West Virginia? This sort of transition is happening in a lot of states. Why West Virginia?
Well, so that clip really captured it, I think. You've got a state that is synonymous with coal production and jobs and workers. It was a big subject of the 2016 campaign. Trump really appealed to the base there, promising to bring coal back and things like that. And it's and green energy jobs, by contrast, are sort of this, kind of other side of the political aisle, usually a blue state kind of thing. And you've got these two things that are seemingly in conflict, but basically it's a job opportunity for the people that are there. So in some ways they're embracing something that they're kind of against in principle.
Right. Of the people that you spoke to there in West Virginia, for the most part, what was their attitude about the declining, the declining job market around coal in West Virginia? Did they see it as inevitable? Did they see it as a political failing of the previous administration? How did they experience what the world sees from the outside as something that is probably necessary for the future of the planet?
Yeah, so I think they see it in a mixture of ways, and it kind of depends on who you talk to. I do think some people see it as inevitable. I think the majority of people see it as largely inevitable that a fossil fuel will run out at a certain point, right? But I think that they also believe that there's been an attack on the industry, and that the industry has been held back with unfair regulations and things like that. I think that there's a lot of that feeling there. Mm-hmm. But by and large, a lot of the people we spoke to anyway really know that the jobs are not going to come back in great numbers, and so really want to embrace an alternative for the future.
So they've gotten past a place where they are rallying to get the coal industry back where it was.
Yes, I mean, I think they're still in favor by and large. There's still an identity wrapped up with it, and I think that there's still popular support, it seems like, for initiatives that'll help continue to prop up the coal industry, essentially.
Right.
But I think by and large people realize, they just know that the jobs are not going to come back,
right,
in really significant numbers.
And like you said,
meaningfully.
since there are so many generations of West Virginians who've worked in coal, it's almost like an identity for many of them. How do they see the push for renewable energy? Like you said, some see it as a job, but others see it as something that they are against in principle. Is there a way to get past that, or do you think it's a generational thing? By the time the next generation comes around, it'll just be a job?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's for the majority of workers there. If somebody who isn't working is offered an opportunity to work at a windmill or installing solar panels, it's a job. They can raise money. It's an income for their family. They'll do it.
And are these jobs comparable? These renewable energy jobs, do they pay roughly the same? Are the benefits roughly the same?
They don't quite yet.
Okay.
The industry isn't really there yet, and I think that's a big part of what we explore in the piece. Solar panels, for instance. The number one way solar panels are sold in the United States is through something called the power purchase agreement. That means that you can, put down a down payment. It's like buying a car, basically. You can pay for it over several years, because installing a solar panel on your home, let's say, could cost anywhere between $10,000 and $30,000. In West Virginia, those are prohibited. So if you want a solar panel on your roof, you have to pay that in cash.
That $30,000 straight up.
Yeah, and most people can't afford it, and therefore the companies aren't able to grow, and therefore they're not able to offer jobs. So while other fossil fuel states like Texas and New Mexico are starting to lead in green energy, West Virginia is kind of fallen far behind, and right now they only have 2% of their the electricity in their state is produced by green energy.
So you think that some of those policies, some of that legislation that's in place in West Virginia is hampering the growth of the renewable energy industry in that state, and therefore not allowing some of these workers who no longer have jobs in the coal industry to be absorbed into the renewable energy industry?
That's absolutely correct. Adam met with a delegate at in the legislature. He straight up says the coal industry is actively blocking us from being able to support and the renewable energy industry, which would then create additional jobs. He also sat down with the senior vice president of the West Virginia Coal Association, a lobbying group, and he denies that they actively do that. He really points to the utility companies as the ones that are actively blocking those things. But generally it's agreed that there are a lot of forces that are supporting coal, and there's legislation in place that deliberately blocks green energy from being able to grow and create jobs.
And Matt, what does the future of coal look like in West Virginia, both in the short term and the long term?
Sure. So what's really interesting actually is that a third or nearly a third of electricity in the United States is actually provided by coal. So coal is not
Still
really
huge.
going anywhere. And they, the West Virginia Coal Association sees, in the next 10, 20 years, they feel like they're going to have a healthy industry for quite a few years to come. But that's an industry that mostly is relying on machines. Back in 1950 or so, there were over 100,000 people in West Virginia, for instance, that worked in coal. Now there's 14,000, and those jobs aren't coming back. So the coal industry itself is going to be fine, but or at least for the foreseeable future. But those other jobs that could be there really are kind of lacking.
Right. Now, is there a recognition in the state that coal and probably, carbon emissions are just not good for the environment, or is that not a generally accepted truth?
I think that, that's not something we really explored all that much in this piece, to be honest with you. And I think that because West Virginia has been it's really powered America for a couple of generations, and so yes, of course there's going to be knock-on effects for the environment for that, but I think that really what people are focused on, it's a main economic driver, right? Sure. So if they were farming or whatever, that would be their product, but their product is coal. So I think they take that reality with that. Right.
All right, Matt Morrison, thank you so much for coming to see us. Congratulations on the doc.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.